So today we're going to talk about pronouns, which are a part of speech that refers to words that take the place of a noun. And a noun is a person, place, or thing. So it's a word that replaces the name for a person, place, or thing. The first category of pronoun is personal pronoun. So there's first person pronouns that refer to I, me, mine, or myself. So I, me, mine, myself. Then there's second person pronouns. And so this refers to you, yours, or yourself. Those are second person. The last category of personal pronouns is third person. And you notice there's quite a lot of them because there's lots of ways to talk about someone else. So there's he or his, she or hers, it or its, and then herself, himself, one, and oneself. So you can use one to replace a word like he or his. So you can say, instead of you should go to the store, you could say, one should go to the store to get some milk. So it's another more formal way of using a pronoun to replace a name. You could also see that some pronouns talk about possession. They own something. So mine is something that me owns. Yours, something that you own. His and hers and its are all owning words. The next group of pronouns are group pronouns. This refers to a larger group of people. There are some that include yourself, like us, we, ourselves, ours, and then there are words that don't include you. So they, theirs, them, and themselves. And again, you can see some words that are belonging words, like theirs, it belongs to them, or ours, it belongs to us. The next group are the indefinite pronouns. Now, indefinite means you don't know how many of something. So you could have anything, anyone, something, that should be someone, hold on. Fixed it, someone. Then you've got no one, nothing, none, and nobody. Notice with no one, it's actually two words. And the reason it's two words is that if you wrote it together, it would look like you spelled none or noon really, really wrong. So don't make that mistake. Make sure you separate it into two words. The last group is other pronouns. Now, there's lots of names you can use, like reflexive or indefinite, or not indefinite, we've already done that one, interrogative or demonstrative or relative or reciprocal. But honestly, it doesn't matter. What really matters is that you have all of them. So one of them is each other. Again, it's two words. Just like you wouldn't write the word cantaloupe or a little as one word, you wouldn't write a lot or each other as one word. You need to write them as two. You also have another, that, who, whom, which, whose, where, when, why, this, those, these, what, whatever, and whose. So a lot of these are words that describe a place or a person or where something took place, when something took place. All of these are pronouns, and they're often used a lot. So these are the ones that it's easiest to miss because they're used so often. So make sure you've got all of these written down so that the next time we highlight pronouns, you can get all of them. Okay, so now we have all the pronouns, but why are they important? So next we're going to look at how pronouns can help you tell an author's purpose. The author's purpose is why the author is writing a piece, and there are three main purposes in most writing. You can entertain, you can inform, and you can persuade. Each of these types of writing uses more of one set of pronouns than of another. So we're going to look at each of them piece by piece so you can see how to use the pronoun to figure out why the author is writing. So one type of writing is entertaining writing, where the author is trying to tell you a story. They also might be trying to make you feel something. So they can be telling you a story or giving you a feeling when you read. It could be things like a narrative, like a story about someone's life. It can be a biography, a story about someone else's life and the events that shaped them. Or it could even be comedy, where you're telling a joke and trying to get someone to laugh. Now, the author's going to use a lot of personal pronouns in an entertaining piece. So pronouns like I, me, he, she, and you. So if they're telling a story about their own life, it's probably going to be narrated in first person using a lot of I and me. If they're telling a story that's a biography or about someone else's life, they're going to use he or she. They might even use you. So a lot of jokes even start with, you know when you did this, or have you ever heard the one that goes like this? So a lot of jokes do use you. So if you see lots of personal pronouns, the author's probably trying to entertain you. So here's an example of an entertaining piece. Now you can see, so it's actually an article, but there's some jokes inside of it. So if you look through carefully, you can see down here. The joke is it not about time you let the Catholics cross? Down here, do you want to go to heaven? The man said, I do. The priest said, then stand over there against the wall. And then again, keep going. You've got plenty of yous, I's. So you're being entertained because you're being told a story. Now, you may not find it funny, but that doesn't mean that it's not entertaining. The second type of writing we're going to look at is persuasive writing, where the author is trying to convince you and argue for their opinion. Now, a piece of persuasive writing is going to mostly have group pronouns. So words like we, us, and also it often will have personal pronouns. So if the author's using I or you, those are also words that they might use. They might argue from their own perspective with their own experiences. Now, I know they're not technically pronouns, but there are 3 words that I tell my students to look for when you're looking for persuasive writing. Words like need, should, and must. Those 3 words are pretty good signal words that the author is trying to tell you to do something or believe something. So if you see those words, you probably can believe it's persuasive. So here's an example of a persuasive piece. Now in this persuasive piece, he's trying to convince you of better ways to pick a president than the way we do it. And if you look through very carefully, what you can see is, especially in this last paragraph here, there's a we. There's also pronouns like these and them. There's an us, and then another we. And again, you're looking for those magic words of must, need, and should. And if you look through, he does use propose, which is the same thing as saying he wants you to do something. And then he uses the words will be down here. But also up at the top, he says they should be forced. So there's our magic word. We know that this is definitely persuasive. So again, he uses personal pronouns and other pronouns like these, but he also uses a majority of we, us, and then he uses the magic should. So you know it's persuasive. The last type of writing is informative writing. In this, the author is trying to describe, explain, tell, or define. Now, it can be something like an instruction manual where it tells you how to use a product, but it could also be like a history textbook where it's explaining all the things that happened. It doesn't have an opinion. It's not trying to entertain you. It just tells you information. So that's why other pronouns are used more. Very, very rarely will you find a personal pronoun or a group pronoun. Because if it's just telling you about a process, it shouldn't have a point of view, and it shouldn't be telling you what you should, need, or must do. The last type was informative, so I pulled up an example of a Wikipedia entry. Now, if it comes from a dictionary or comes from Wikipedia, it's going to be informative no matter what. But I've underlined all of the pronouns that I could see, and a lot of them you can see are that, few, this, which, that, it, alone, more. Most of them are part of the other pronouns. You don't see any personal pronouns or any group pronouns, so they're not trying to convince you of anything or trying to entertain you. Now, the one thing that could trip you up here, though, is you can see a couple of words, like must is right there, and then later I think there's need somewhere, if I'm remembering right. Now, that doesn't mean that it's persuasive. Oh, there it is, needed. If you read it in context, you can see physical checks must be mailed in. So it's telling you a feature rather than telling you that you need to do something. So if it's not telling you to do something or that you must believe or change your opinion, then it's going to be informative. Okay, to wrap up our super awesome pronoun lesson, there are lots of different pronouns. By finding the pronouns in the piece, you can figure out why the author chose to write it, whether it's informative, persuasive, or entertaining. Finding those will help you figure that out and hopefully pass your CASE. Thank you for watching.